So I've actually never revealed this before, but in the last 12 months, my business just crossed $1 million in revenue. You didn't quit your full-time job until you were earning $80,000 per month.
It was a long journey there, a lot of painstaking hours managing my full-time job with DesignJoy, but happy that I finally had the guts to do it, because I don't do traditional marketing. I don't have lead gen. I don't have pipelines. I don't have a team. It's just me, right? It's been a journey on just kind of believing in myself and trusting myself and like going like full in, betting on my own abilities.
So for people who don't understand what it is and why what you're doing is different, can you describe that for us?
How designers engage with their clients and how design is sold.
How do you handle, and is this the hell and back you're talking about, weekends or vacations, or just sometimes in life we have slower periods?
You know, I don't take vacations. I'm notorious for that. I really don't even know what I would do with myself on a vacation. But now everything is X. You know, that X is where everything comes from. It's the only platform that I have any involvement in whatsoever. The only place I post, share things, interact with people. It's exclusively X today. I'm enjoying having the reach right now, but I see a lot of other people struggling with it, and it's platform risk. It's everywhere. I've had a lot of success on social media way before DesignJoy.
Really quickly, I think a crazy stat is that more than 50% of you listening are not subscribed. If you can subscribe on YouTube, follow on Apple or Spotify podcasts, my commitment to you is that we'll continue to make this content better and better. And now on to today's episode. So I've actually never revealed this before, but in the last 12 months, my business just crossed $1 million in revenue. We have two people on today's podcast who have created $1 million one-person businesses. Brett, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You're about to cross 2 million ARR if I multiply your MRRs for last month by 12. So you're a little bit further ahead than me, and I want everybody to hear your story. And I think it starts with everybody wants to build this one-man business. And I think what both of us did that probably most people don't think of doing is we actually built this business while we still had a full-time job. I didn't quit my full-time job until the revenue from my business had exceeded what I was making as a vice president of product at a unicorn. You didn't quit your full-time job until you were earning $80,000 per month. Take us back to that time period and how you created this business on the side of your full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, under the hood, DesignJoy is really about as lean of a startup, if you want to call it that, as possible. It's a lot of just grunt design work. You know, there's not much going on under the hood. There's not these, everyone thinks I have like all these fancy, you know, elaborate automation set up and this and that, but it's really a landing page, a Trello board that I manage requests in. And my day-to-day is just doing just pure design work. It's a completely output focused agency, which is very contrarian to other agencies that exist out there. A lot of them are process driven and very slow because of that. But yeah, I had a corporate job, just like many probably people listening. wasn't super fulfilling. I always had that like entrepreneurial desire to, you know, like screw working for somebody else. Like I just want to do my own thing. And, but never had like the guts to really jump out and do it. But you know, I had this comfy corporate job that allowed me a lot of, stability, or so I thought. So I seized the opportunity, built DesignJoy in a weekend. It was a Friday night project that launched on a Saturday, and Sunday my life was was very different than it is today. And then I kept that job, the corporate job, for I think it was about 4 or 5 years of running DesignJoy. Yeah. And then kept hitting those revenue marks that were anyone else would have jumped ship a long time ago from their full-time job and went all in on you know, your thing if it was making $70,000, $80,000 a month, but that was not me. But I did it long enough. I hit those revenue marks long enough, month after month after month, that I finally had the guts to like start thinking about it. And I got laid off from a job. And then about the time I was about to make the jump, I got laid off from my corporate job, but still was not ready. So I looked for another job. I applied to 60 places, even though I was making $80,000 a month. I still looked for another job, got another job, and then stayed there for a little while. And then I just woke up one day and was like, screw it. Let's do it. So I jumped all in on DesignJoy. And it was the most freeing feeling ever to have built something from the ground up that you can now like sustain you and your family. It was a really cool feeling. And then, things just quickly grew and scaled after I went full time on it. Not that I even really changed much about my approach, but it just the focus that I had on it. Just I think revenue doubled like within just 3 or 4 months for DesignJoy. So yeah, it was a long journey there. A lot of painstaking hours managing my full time job with DesignJoy, but happy that I finally had the guts to do it.
I had no idea it was 4 to 5 years. That's an incredible amount of time. What was holding you back? And looking back, would you have jumped ship earlier?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that held me back the most, it was the way that DesignJoy kind of spawned into the world was very fast. I mean, it was really 24 hours from like ideation to execution to launch to getting customers, right? It was like very minute time in history. And I guess in my mind, I'm like, well, it could also go away just as fast because maybe it's a trend. Maybe, because no one had really done it before. No one had really tested the waters. Maybe it was just something that like, sparked really big and then just faded away into the ether like a month later. And so I was always in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, no one's done this before. No one's done it like I've done it. Maybe I just had a stroke of luck at first, and I needed to like actually. It was so unbelievable that I needed to see it continue on for a long period of time before I realized this is actually something that's sustainable that I can actually do for a long period of time. So there's a lot of founder insecurity and not having done it before, and I felt like I wasn't deserving of the success that I was seeing. So I thought maybe it'd go away for that reason as well eventually. But yeah, it's those things I still struggle with even now, having done $2 million last year. Like I still have those like voices in the back of my head that says this thing could die tomorrow, right? Because I don't do traditional marketing, I don't have lead gen, I don't have pipelines, I don't have a team. It's just me, right? So yeah, it's a scary world, but you do something long enough and you start to kind of trust the process and actually see yourself for who you are versus what you think you are, which is this some incapable, inferior kind of designer in my case. So yeah, it's been a journey on just kind of believing in myself and trusting myself and like going like full in betting on my own abilities. But yeah, it was a long time to juggle both.
So for people who don't understand what it is and why what you're doing is different, can you describe that for us?
Yeah, I mean, look, what I'm doing is not necessarily revolutionary. I would say it's actually the opposite approach of just grossly oversimplifying how designers engage with their clients and how design is sold. So I sell design like you sell a product, meaning that like you can go to my website, you see exactly what it is you're getting. It's a subscription, which is a lot of people kind of conflate it with a retainer, but it's totally not a retainer at all. There's some similarities and some overlap, but it's basically you subscribe for a fixed rate per month. You can pause or cancel the engagement anytime. So it's very flexible, very budget friendly. It's a great alternative to hiring internally, full-time, or working with kind of inconsistent freelancers out there. Kind of get the best of both worlds from like a freelancer and agency perspective. And you pay, $5,000 a month, which is the base rate. And you're allowed one request at a time. So your request could be a landing page. It could be a branding project, like a rebrand or a logo. It could be a product flow within an application. It could be anything, really. And you get that usually within about 48 business hours, so to speak. So it could be a little more, it could be less. And I do that across the board for about 20 clients at a time. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of like Netflix, but for design is the best way to probably put it.
And that is really the revolutionary thing is your offer, your packaging, your service, right? Obviously your design is really good and that's why people come to you and stay with you. So that's the base. But I think the takeaway here is how you've basically productized yourself. How did you discover this packaging and how can other people think about developing similar packaging?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say it was an original idea for me, and it was in a way, but also wasn't. So there was another company that was doing something kind of similar in the beginning, but they were doing it for like very low level design work for like small shops. Like it was purely graphic design, no web design, no product design, no branding. But those were the things that I took favor with. Those were the things that I felt like I was good at. And so I basically applied that model to, and I thought, why couldn't you do it? And I'm super fast. Like I've been fast from the beginning of my career, right? Like going back to 2009 when I was in college, like I was designing in Photoshop just insanely quickly and having to just crank out a bunch of assets every single day. So it really kind of groomed me to be able to take on a lot of clients at a time. And I felt, at the same time, like going through it also allowed me to do it as well. Like a lot of designers look at it and like, there's no way you can take on 20 clients at a time. And I'm like, well, if you do it for 2 years or 3 years, you'll start to kind of, get a little bit quicker and more efficient with your craft. But yeah, so it wasn't a totally original idea. How I did it and how I sold it online kind of was in a very simplistic fashion. Like I didn't build my own tool. I just used Trello. I started out charging like $450 a month, which is just nothing, right? Now I charge 5K. So, but basically the business is the same as it was 8 years ago. I use the same tools, same processes, different price tag. But how I do the work and how I facilitate the work is precisely the same with drastically different revenue numbers. But, yeah, it's like one of those things where it's a pain point because I've been on the other side. I've been a product officer, but I've done a lot of agency work as well, being, working for agencies. And I've just seen a lot of the pain points of clients working with agencies and just being slow, expensive. Like if you have a design project, but you're also paying the salary of like the dev guy, the product manager, the designer, the CEO, and it's just bloated costs, everywhere. And so, it just overcomplicates tasks like branding and stuff. It just becomes, it's almost over romanticized, over glamorized. We have to go through these 16 different steps to arrive at a logo. So I just cut all that out and like, I'll give you a logo in 24 hours, and it'll be good. It'll probably be as good, if not better than those that take 6 months to do for you, So yeah, I've done a lot of things different than most agencies out there. And turns out there's a big segment of people who want just that. So that's where I am today.
Today's episode is brought to you by Amplitude. Replays of mobile user engagement are critical to building better products and experiences, but many session replay tools don't capture the full picture. Some tools take screenshots every second, leading to choppy replays and high storage costs from enormous capture sizes. Others use wireframes, but key moments go missing, creating gaps in your understanding. Neither approach gives you a truly mobile experience. Amplitude does things differently. Their mobile replays capture the full experience. Every tap, every scroll, and every gesture, with no lag and no performance hit. It's the most accurate way to understand mobile behavior. See the full story with Amplitude. Today's episode is brought to you by Jira Product Discovery. If you're like most product managers, you're probably in Jira, tracking tickets and managing the backlog. But what about everything that happens before delivery? Jira Product Discovery helps you move your discovery, prioritization, and even road mapping work out of spreadsheets and into a purpose-built tool designed for product teams. Capture insights, prioritize what matters, and create roadmaps you can easily tailor for any audience. And because it's built to work with Jira, everything stays connected from idea to delivery. Used by product teams at Canva, Deliveroo, and even The Economist. Check out why and try it for free today at Atlassian.com/product-discovery. That's Atlassian.com/product-discovery. Jira Product Discovery. Build the right thing. That's so interesting. And I think part of the magic here isn't just the skill of how fast you are, but how you've really put this packaging on it. It's the subscription. You have this turnaround. You submit a Trello request. So how can somebody else who has a skill, let's say I'm a good YouTube thumbnail designer, or I am a good fractional product manager and I want to productize myself, how can someone else replicate your success?
Well, I mean, there are some prerequisites. I mean, I don't know. Look, I mean, the success that I've had individually, I don't know if someone will ever do it quite like I did it. I mean, there's been a lot of other designers in particular who have reach the 100K a month mark in revenue for their subscription business, but they always have teams. It's like always have teams that they use to do the work. I don't know that anyone's insane enough to do what I did by myself, right? And I definitely wouldn't recommend it, because I went through hell and back to get to where I am, and that's not an understatement. But yeah, I think like the prerequisite is that you are both good and fast at what you do. That's the two terms that I always use. Like, I am so strict on the type of work that I take on at DesignJoy so that I can be efficient. I can take on more clients, make more money, deliver work faster. Like, there's things that like in the design world that I'm like moderately good at. Like, I'm moderately good at 3D design. I'm like learning animation. I'm doing all these things, but like not enough to plug them into the DesignJoy offering, because those would bog down everything else. So like if you're a fast like thumbnail designer, like stuff like that, I mean, now with like AI, you could take on an insane amount of clients with something like that. But yeah, you have to define what it is that you're good at. Only offer that. Set up a price. Probably like really start really low to get people in the door. I always advocate for demand-based pricing, so like your price raises as demand increases, and that's that's why I started out really low at DesignJoy, and it definitely wasn't hard to get clients at $450 a month. And now it's not hard to get clients at $5,000 a month, because I kind of proved myself along the way. But yeah, it's really as simple as setting up a website, constructing some sort of package around what it is you offer, attach some sort of time deliverable to that, and that's pretty much it. Go to market, right? It's like, and then it's really that simple. It's just pick things that you're good and fast at, and that's ultimately the key to it. And it's like a lot of people get hung up on the agency part, but this is really just a way to freelance nowadays. It's really like a new freelance model. You don't have to necessarily like look at it like you're building an agency. DesignJoy is just basically a glorified freelancing gig for me, if you want to call it that.
I think you're making it sound easy, but there are some key steps here, right? Like, have a really strong intake system that works for you. It sounds like your Trello board is working for you. Have a really clearly defined timeline for deliverables, and also the types of requests that people can come in. So maybe you can clarify that for me a little bit. Like, what are the types of things a client could request from you, and what time could they expect back?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I fall victim to oversimplifying it, just because this has been my world for the last decade. But also distribution is another big thing as well. But certainly all the other things are true as well. But what you can request from my service in particular, and there's a lot of others that do things differently than me and offer different things, but where my strengths are, I call like the 4 or 5 primary offerings of DesignJoy would be branding. I do a ton of branding at DesignJoy, pretty much brand most startups or companies that come through the door, or rebrand them. So branding, landing page design, I do a ton of websites, more websites than just about anything else. Product design is one of those things where like I wish I did more. It's hard for product owners and like just product people in general to see how that would work within this model. Because it's usually it's more like close knit, like talking with your designer and working with your PMs and stuff like that. It's a different process altogether than like doing a logo. But I do a lot of product design, webflow development. I do a lot of slide decks. I do a lot of social media stuff. But that's the main stuff, is like branding, landing pages, product design, webflow development, slide decks. That's what I do a lot of.
So you don't need to just package one thing like YouTube thumbnails. You could actually put in like, those are like 4 or 5 very distinct things. But the key is then there's this system of expectation. And so how long does it take roughly? Like some of those projects, it sounds like could take dramatically longer than others for you. What's the guarantee on the customer side?
Yeah, I mean, there's the average request that I'll call it, which would be in my case, like an average request would be like a landing page, it'd be a logo. It would be like an email design, or like a 10-page slide deck. Like all of those things that I just described, 48-hour delivery window on all day long. But of course, there's like the possibility, because I don't limit the size of requests that you're allowed to tackle under the DesignJoy model, that I could get, a 50 or 100-page, mobile app request come through. And it's like a single request. And it's all broken down within the Trello card. And but in that case, it sort of follows the same suit. Like I'll break the project down. I'll jump in wherever I see fit, and just do interval deliverables every couple of days until the project is done. You know, it's like I don't rely on them to break it down. I don't provide ETAs up front that says you're going to get this, this, and this on these dates. No, just feed it all to me. I'll just do it little by little each day, deliver it, get consistent deliverables, keeps the client happy, keeps the development team busy. And that's what I do. But yeah, most things do fit within this nice like cookie cutter 48-hour window. But how long it takes me is a different story. So it might take me 2 days to deliver a landing page, but it really only takes me 30, 45 minutes to design, which, you know, you could start to see how many clients you can kind of stack on if it only takes you 30 minutes, but you're allowing yourself 2 days to deliver it. If you take 8 hours in a day, that's a lot of clients you could take on, you know. And that's to say that every client has a request for you every day, which is far from the truth as well. So
Yeah, so you can kind of take like your time to complete a request, let's say 45 minutes. If you have 8 hours and 50% of clients have a request at a given time, that's something like 12 that you could do, and 50% of the clients have a request. So it's 24 clients you could staff. So you can kind of do this math based on how long the things are taking you and how much time you have guaranteed as your turnaround. How do you handle, and is this the hell and back you're talking about, weekends or vacations, or, you know, just sometimes in life we have slower periods?
yeah. I don't take vacations. I'm notorious for that. I really don't even know what I would do with myself on a vacation. But yeah, is that kind of what you're asking? Is like how I disconnect from it?
Wow. So you don't take vacation, and does the 48-hour, it doesn't include weekends, right? So it's only business days?
It doesn't, but I mean, it sort of does in a way too, because if you were to submit a request, let's say on Thursday, I don't really want to make you wait until Monday, because that's really, in your eyes, it's like 3 or 4 days later. So there's some like leniency there. Like if you submit a request on Thursday, I'll usually try to deliver it on Friday. Or if you submit something during the weekend, I'll usually try to deliver it on Monday. So there is this like, I sort of circumvent the weekend thing that way. But yeah, technically it's no weekend service, you know, for DesignJoy.
Okay, so you can at least get weekends, but no vacations. That's mind-blowing.
No, I take weekends 100% of the time. I used not to, you know, especially when I had my full-time job. But I haven't worked a weekend in years, I feel like, at this point. Yeah, I work a pretty normal schedule, surprisingly. I mean, I have, you know, about 20 clients at a time, but I work less than a full-time job for sure, like way less than a full-time job.
Wow.
So.
That's amazing. That's what people want to do. They aspire to that. We covered a lot on the package and the offer. I really do think that's the key. Productize yourselves, folks. The second element, as you said and alluded to, is distribution. So walk us through the very first few customers that you got and how you acquired them.
Yeah. It was a goldmine back then. I feel like I reference these as like the good old days when it used to be way easier to get distribution than it is today, because we had tools like, you know, the indie hackers community was super. Were you ever a part of indie hackers?
No.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
I've been to their website because they have some SEO ranking blog articles. That's about it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, it used to just be this like tight-knit group of founders, indie hackers that were just building whatever, and you could just share articles on there, and you a lot of good engagement. So I built DesignJoy publicly on that platform. You know, when I would hit a certain revenue milestone, I would share it on there. When I did whatever along the way, that was the only platform that I used initially, other than Product Hunt. That was what I launched within the first like 24 hours of actually putting DesignJoy out there. That's how I got my first clients and rode that way for a really long time. Unfortunately, that opportunity I feel like now is just non-existent because Product Hunt has just gone down the drain, unfortunately. But that was awesome. That was like the biggest hack in the world, having that available to me. I don't know that DesignJoy ever really would have taken off without it. But then, yeah, I supplemented that by building in public a lot, especially on the Indie Hackers platform, on Facebook groups and Slack groups, stuff like that. But now everything is X. You know, that X is where everything comes from. It's the only platform that I have any involvement in whatsoever. Only place I post, share things, interact with people. So it's exclusively X today.
So at any given time, did you mainly focus on one distribution platform?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, I mean, it's really byproduct of DesignJoy, I'm a really simple guy. Like I can't have all of my hands in all these different things. I like to just be like, I have like an obsessive personality towards a lot of things, and I just dive all into it. So like, even though right now, like today, I should be probably diversifying the channels that I use, but I'm just like, I'm all in on X. I've just been all in on certain things along the way, and especially when you see success from those things, it's way more attractive to just continue pushing than to like explore other opportunities. So yeah, I'm a very like one track mind guy. I like to stay on one thing at a time. I'm not like Levels that just does 50 startups at a time. It's not me. It's not the way my brain works and how I'm successful. So yeah, I'm a very like, let's just do one thing at a time, one channel at a time, one thing at a time for me.
Yeah, although you might be helping 50 startups at a time. So you still have the ability, I think you're underselling yourself on your ability to task switch. When I task switch from the newsletter to the podcast, I still feel like I lose 30 minutes, but it seems like you're task switching between clients and able to not really have that. So you do have that skill, but I love this one offer, one distribution channel advice for folks. I would say the same. Like, although the people might see me distributed, like, oh, I have YouTube and X and LinkedIn, 80% of my revenue comes from LinkedIn. When I'm waking up in the morning, I'm checking LinkedIn. When I write a post, I'm thinking about LinkedIn. And I think that having that focus really allows you to like learn the platform, because these social media platforms, there's a huge arbitrage between being like the 99.9th best creator and the 99.99 best creator.
Yeah.
Like it's the difference between me and you on X. I'm getting hundreds of likes, you're getting thousands of likes because you are at that next decimal point, that fourth nine. And I think that that's very, very important. And you can only do that really, I think humans probably, unless you're Greg Eisenberg on one platform at a time.
Yeah, most of us have to stay focused, but that's not to say that there aren't some unicorns out there that just have their hands in all kinds of different things, and everything they touch seems to turn into gold. I'm surprised I did anything. I'm surprised anything turned into gold that I touched. So I'm not going to push my luck, but you also run the risk of putting all your eggs in one basket. Cause I come from the social media world. That's where my career started, and building really big, Facebook pages and stuff like that. And I've seen firsthand the risk in relying too much on a single platform. And I've seen startups die that I've been a part of because of just small algorithmic changes, So yeah, it's not something I would 100% recommend, but it's worked well for me while it's working.
Yeah, my 2023 X impressions were 250 million. 2024 was like 150 million. 2025 is on track for like 10 million. So they can definitely drop off a cliff.
They are. And it may not be anything to do with you, And that's the sad part, is like, I like to have control over it. And I just realized these algorithms make me feel just so unimportant, because they can just change one night and your reach is just gone, It's very scary. So I'm enjoying having the reach right now, but I see a lot of other people struggling with it, and it's platform risk. It's everywhere. So
break down a little bit of what you're doing on Twitter or X these days, because
we can call it Twitter.
I see you using it in a way that's very different from the average person. You're giving away a ton of content. You're walking through tutorials of art. You're creating amazing art. Talk us through how you're thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean, it constantly evolves. I think going back to our discussion on the algorithm, like you'll wake up and that one thing won't work anymore. And so in my brain, I'm like, well, I got to find something that does, because my entire business rides on this platform working for me. And so I'm a big, I have this almost intuitive sense of virality that I've always had. I mean, again, I've had a lot of success on social media way before DesignJoy. And so I've always had this intuitive, emotional sense of what kind of content is going to get a lot of reach. So I'm a full on, I'm a self-admitted, I play the algorithm hardcore. I'm not the kind of guy that just dumps his brain on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it started off around being based around the numbers that I'm generating for DesignJoy. That got a lot of notoriety, a lot of engagement, a lot of conversations. It just kind of kickstarted the entire productized service movement in a lot of ways. And then I switched to some other things, and now I'm into making tutorials, which is getting more reach than anything I've ever had on X, consistently day after day. And I think my approach to it is like, you see a lot of like AI is like the big thing in the design world right now, and in development world, in a lot of worlds really. It's like the big elephant in the room. But so much of what's generated out there in terms of this AI content is really not. It's just self-serving. It doesn't actually serve the need of anybody actually consuming the content in a lot of ways. So like, doing these anime, things in ChatGPT, it's like, it's cool, but there's nothing really to like give to you with that. So I've tried to center around to like showing you how to use AI to actually do something that's going to serve you. Whether it's like, adding this material to your logo, or giving your logo like a 3D spin that you can put on something, or here's how to do dithering effects, or like, it's all content definitely geared towards designers, but it's like even content that if you're not a designer, you can sort of consume and look like a designer, right? So yeah, like this
one.
showing, yeah. So this right here is basically just showing how to use AI to kind of put different elements together. So you can see those 4 elements that I generated in a mix of like Midjourney or ChatGPT, and then I put them together in a collage. And then the step after this is adding the textures on. So it's just showing step by step how to actually do this stuff. And again, like, you really don't even need to necessarily be a designer in order to do it. This is like, again, like, who wouldn't want a cool looking avatar? So I created all these different avatar, studio shot, avatars in Midjourney and ChatGPT, and then basically curated them and gave them away as a free sort of pack. They're basically all just like reference images is all they really are, but they're curated, and you don't have to go generate the prompt, with the prompt and stuff. So yeah, they're all, I mean, you can see the impressions. It's just almost mind boggling how popular they are. And now I see a bunch of people are doing it. Yeah.
Now everybody will copy it. Yes.
Now everybody will copy. Not only on Twitter, people have seen me show me things on Threads that's like going viral and this stuff. I'm like, that's fine. It's the way it goes, right? Like, nothing's original. I certainly was not the first person to do tutorials on X. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and who knows how long this will last. Well, before I switch to something else, but it's just the name of the game. So.
Okay, well, we might come back to the business a little bit more in productizing yourself, but now I think it's really time to see it in action. I think my mind was blown, and my entire podcast team, we knew we really wanted you on the podcast when you had the live battle versus Lovable, the AI prototyping tool. You used Webflow to win, but in general, you design fast. And I know you do a lot of that design in Figma. So can we kind of do a live cooking session in Figma where we get to see how you design so fast?
Sure, let's do it.
So I know you haven't really even had any time to prepare for this, but here's the task, right? Let's take a look at my website, because I know you do a lot of websites.
Okay.
Let's take a look at my website. I think it gets something like 2 million visits a month, so it's a decent website out there. How would we redesign that?
I mean, look, like, there's the actual tactical like designing in Figma, but there's also like my approach in general, and I'm happy to just spin something up in Figma real quick if you just want to see like an example.
But where should we start?
I mean, I pretty much one-shot everything. That's my general approach to design, which is you'll never probably hear anyone else say that, even if they actually do it. I'm not the type of guy that's going to, like, if you hire me to design your site, I'm not the type of guy that's going to sit around, come up with 12 different directions, go and explore all these different rabbit holes, put together mood boards and stuff like that. No, I'm just going to, like, come up with the direction in my head and just go with it and send it to you. And if you like it, wonderful. We just saved ourselves a bunch of time and money. But if you don't, then I can just take an hour and spin up something else for you. It's an entirely new direction, So that's part of the approach. And then, I'm probably just as fast as anybody in Figma. There's nothing necessarily special about how I use Figma in a certain way. It's just more so the vision that I cast immediately upon doing something, and then just like jumping straight into high fidelity and executing. I don't do wireframing or sketching on a notepad or none of that jazz. It's just go straight into high fidelity.
Awesome. Let's see it in action. That is radically different than I guarantee 100% of listeners of this podcast who work in big companies and they're used to that wireframe, then prototype, then high fidelity. They're used to 5 rabbit holes. So let's see how it all goes down.
Yeah, let me share my screen.
AI evals are one of the most important skills for PMs. And I know you know they matter. The question is, are you doing them right? Most teams are winging it with basic metrics and hoping for the best. Meanwhile, the teams that actually ship reliable AI, they've cracked the code on systematic evaluation. Today's episode is brought to you by the AI Evals for Engineers and PMs course by Hamal Hussain and Shreya Shankar. This live Maven course will teach you the battle-tested frameworks from Hamal and Shreya, who are the engineers behind GitHub Copilot's evaluation system and 25 plus production AI implementations. 4 weeks, live instruction. Next cohort starts July 21st. Start shipping AI that actually works. Enroll at maven.com with my code AG-product-growth for over $800 off. That's AG-PRODUCT-GROWTH.
So, I mean, again, we did not prepare for this. We kind of came up with the prompt like right when I got on this call with you. So I haven't had a ton of time. Like normally I would sit here and brainstorm some, like look at some websites and stuff to get some sort of direction.
Okay.
But the main thing that I saw for sure, if I can go back to your site again. Oh, it's probably not going to let me. Maybe I can do it
If you go incognito, it will.
Yeah, let me do it.
Yeah.
Because this was something that surprised me because you said, well, how would you download all these components? And I'm like, I don't see any components. And then I saw this no thanks button right here, which is good because, it's newsletter subscriber like centric, which is awesome. But there's no real content unless you happen to see this button, which I'm sure most people do because they're interested. But then I get here and there's not a lot to like get super excited about, but it's also like pretty busy. And it looks like you're using a lot of the content inside of these things, I would assume, as the thumbnails, which can get a little bit cumbersome visually speaking. So my first approach to this, if you're gonna give me any direction, I would just come up with something that's much cleaner, and we can talk while I'm doing this because it's going to be probably pretty boring. You like the blue?
Yeah.
Okay, you like the blue. Okay, so give it like a cool blue color. I'm not a pure white guy. Anything you like about this that you'd want to keep, or is it pretty much like?
I'm open. I mean, I designed that just based on Substack's website builder. That's like, the few things they allow me to do. So if people want to understand some of the decisions I took, like the very top thing is my latest post. Then below that, we have a segment for my most popular posts. And then we have my 3 segments of my newsletter: succeeding as a PM, getting a PM job, and product leadership. So that's how it's currently organized. And then in each of those 3 sections, it's showing you the 4 latest articles.
Okay. So we'll keep that. We'll make this. Now, the thing with a website like this that we're going to miss in this demo is like the thumbnails are everything, right? Now I can't copy. This is going to slow me down. Oh, geez. I can't copy this text.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. This was what happened in the build wars, by the way. I'm going to talk through this while I'm doing it. But yeah, they sent the copy over, and it was all caps. So during that 45-minute time, what does this say? PMs are screwed. Okay. During that 45-minute time, I had to manually write out all the copy. Now, fonts. That's another thing people spend a lot of time on. I have my go-to fonts for something like this, just starting out. I like Brockman. I don't really like this description that you have here. So I'm just gonna give it like a time, probably 6 hours ago. Yeah, 6 hours ago. And then this will be like the my keyboard right now is sitting on my monitor stand because this is not my home setup, and I don't have room for my mic on here. So it's very off balance.
We're putting
We're
all the
gonna
handicaps in place for this demo.
Yeah. It was just like the Build Wars, though. The Build Wars was 10 times worse because that was in front of, I think you ended up with like 300,000 people.
Wow. When I tuned in, I think there were like 40 or 80, so 300,000.
Yeah, 40,000
yeah,
concurrent, and then by the next morning there was 300 and some thousand, which is why you see, you know, Bolt and all of these companies doing these big things now. What just happened there? So yeah, my thought process is let's make it super clean. We'll still give you that feature thing up here, right? With hopefully like a good thumbnail. Which have you used much of the ChatGPT thing?
A little bit. That thumbnail you guys see there was created in Photoshop. But yeah,
Okay,
I've
still using
tried.
Photoshop. Yep. Just to be like your how many do you have here? 4?
Yep.
Your 4 most popular. Let's see. Let's go 100 by 100. Do you have any experience in Figma?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah, so much Figma. Oh my gosh. It seems like you're using it just like me though. There's not like
No.
something magical about this use case. It's just
No, I mean,
you're doing it with
I'm not even-
conviction, I think, which is like you're making design choices on the fly because you make so many of these design choices, and once you make a choice, you can actually stick to it versus like when I make one, I like adjust it a million times after.
Yeah. No, I have a running repository of patterns and designs in my head, and I refresh those, you know, quite often, so that not everything, you know, begins to really look the same. But you know, I'll start off with something like this, and then we'll go down here, and then we'll do like the core. Again, like I'll probably come back to this and do a nav, and once you start adding imagery in here, it starts to look pretty nice. But over here, I would do like, but I'm not even a big shortcut guy. I'm just like a raw just pixel pusher.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big, I don't use a lot of plugins. But something like this would probably take me 20 minutes to get like a solid like V1. I don't know how far we're gonna go during this particular demo, but what are your other categories?
So I have basically 4 categories. You can say succeeding as a PM, product leadership, getting a PM job, and then the podcast.
So be your kind of category selectors over here. You're in a very niche part of the market with PMs, huh? There's not a lot of people probably doing what you do, huh?
Not too many. That's my goal, right? Create that kind of market of one. I think that might be something for other people to think about, for both of us, actually. Like for you, you're kind of the market of one. Like those 4 to 5 things that you're so good at and so fast at, only you can do. Talking about these
Right.
topics, hopefully only I can do.
Yep. Let's do it by 2. So because, now this is getting into the weeds here a little bit, but because I don't really particularly love the thumbnails it use, I'm not even going to use thumbnails on this.
Okay.
Fine. We'll do the...
That's because the thumbnails, like there's too much going on and they're just like a part of a larger infographic, right?
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to grab your actual things either. Yeah, there's not like a lot of excitement to watch me in Figma.
Oh, it's exciting.
If I
It's
had more
going
time,
way
if I had more
fast.
time to prepare, and if you saw me sort of like, let's say like generating gradients or something like that in Midjourney, or building out gradients, if we had time to do like that sort of stuff, that's where it actually would take something that looks kind of utilitarian like this and makes it actually look pretty nice.
I mean, that would be cool. Yeah, if we can, I would love to see that.
Or I can
I'm
even
super
just
excited.
generate some cool like gradients within. I'm a gradient guy. It's what I use actually in Build Wars, because I didn't know what the prompt was going to be. So let's see here. You could probably add like a little description here. Needs something for sure. Let's do 3 sentences. Yep, perfect. And again, for the sake of the demo, that'll be card, boom.
Okay, see, I didn't see where that was going, but you probably already had that in mind because you've thought of this design pattern before.
Yeah, I mean, this is like right here. This is what I would call, it's like the wireframe stage of the build where there's not a whole lot going on. Usually, like when I'm building something, I will do all the fidelity building as I'm going along. Like I'll make this section perfect before I move down. But this is a live demo, so I don't I don't really want to spend 20 minutes like doing a gradient. But if you like, this would, let's say, let's give this a mask, and then you like the blue, so we'll come in here and we'll go add like a cool like, I don't know what blue you use, but like layer blur of like 400 or something. But then we'll take this, again, for the sake of demo, over here and do it like a little bit of that white in there. Starting to look like a little bit of something. Then let's see, where's your logo at? You don't have a logo.
Not really.
What the heck?
I mean, I do.
So like for something like that,
podcast,
like
yeah.
I'll just go streamline, grow. I use Streamline for everything. That's my. Okay. I'm not sitting here like figuring out icon packs to use, and of course it's not going to work. I've never had a single
Streamline.
I've never had a single problem with Streamline, and now it's not loading the results. What an L. Okay. All right, and then you have your, let's do subscribe. I'm just now learning auto layout, so I'm very very slow at it. I think I'm using it correctly. Do you use auto layout in Figma?
Yes.
You probably know more about it than I do then.
I'm more of like an editor of Figma files than 0 to 1 creator, so.
Yeah, makes sense. What's your background? What'd you do before this?
16 years in product management, always a product manager. So I always had like a dedicated product designer, but a lot of times I would ask for an editor seat in Figma and take what they had said and like, can we just change these changes? I was a very visual PM.
Makes sense.
Which I don't know is always the best practice, but how I like to do it.
Yeah. So you can start to see it's kind of coming together a little bit here and there. And then what's your footer look like? Let's give you a big old footer called product growth.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Product growth. Let's give it like a dope, cool font. How about that? Probably not exactly your style, but looks cool. What else do you have down here? this, put this over here. Boom. You can see this is what happened in Build Wars 2, where I didn't group everything because I was just moving so fast. It's not how I normally design. I'm usually pretty organized. Terms, collection notice. Now, I'd probably also have to account for your newsletter sign up at some point as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of
curious how we're going to handle that.
So, probably take this. Whenever you want me to stop, just let me know, or otherwise I'll just keep cooking.
This is great.
That.
You play with color a lot.
Yeah, in most cases, like there's certainly things that I don't do much with color, but when I can, like again, like I design so many different kinds of things. Like you saw the medieval thing that I did on Twitter, and then this is more like gradients and monochromatic, clean. So it really depends. Now I'm gonna add like a nice shadow on this. I use this plugin called Beautiful Shadows for that. It's like layering. Can you see that on stream?
Yep.
Okay. I'll actually make this a style so I can apply it to all of them. And then your newsletter sign up would be like right here.
And then I think we need to do navigation, right? Are we going to keep it as that navigation right there?
Yeah, we can do your navigation for sure. I make this one to pop a little bit. So what does your thing say? Where can I find that? I gotta go back,
I think if you like do a new incognito, it'll come up again. Oh.
It's not. What's going on here?
I can pull it up probably. Let's see here. What does it say? Oh, it's doing that to me too.
I can also just make it up too.
Yeah, something like join 164,000 subscribers.
Subscribe.
None of this is from templates, right? I think the key takeaway here is you're still building everything from scratch. People might think you've just templatized all this, or they might hear us when we're talking about YouTube thumbnails and think they'll just have some templates that they execute, but you're building it from scratch.
No, I don't use templates, no. I mean,
it's more like a really good understanding of design patterns.
How many subscribers do you have?
164,000.
I assume that was public information. Since you just
Yep.
Okay.
My revenue wasn't until this podcast.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I haven't built in public at all. I think that's one of the keys to your success too, that people should take away.
It is. I get a lot of criticism for that, which on one hand I understand, because I see people on X that I saw a lot of this as DesignJoy was really booming. That they would claim, hey, launched my design agency 3 months ago and we just hit 100K in revenue, and I'm like, bull crap. I'm like, I know what it takes to do that, and especially if you don't have distribution, I know how impossible that is. And so I can sympathize with people that in their mind, like, I faked it to get to this point, and so why couldn't they do the same? And it invites a lot of people that do that. And so on one hand I can sympathize with it, but like on the other hand, I'm like, dude, I've been fighting these things, this kind of like these kind of statements for almost a decade. Like I'm just tired of like defending it. So, but no, nothing I do is from templates. This design in particular here, like again, this is not my normal work environment being on stream. This is kind of like it's kind of templatey a little bit. Nothing really like crazy about it yet.
So how are you going to handle those thumbnails?
In what way?
Like those images? Or would you just give the people guidance on better how to do them, or would you remake them? Or
Are you talking about your thumbnails?
Yep, those images for each article.
I would create a general style for it. So it would be like you create, this would be in a larger corporation. Probably this would be like within the guidelines itself on how to actually create these. So there would be templates involved. But with something like this, I'll just go ahead and create one for you, and you can kind of see and for every decision I make here, there's 1,000 other ones that you could make. Mm-hmm. So just because I'm going to go ahead and put, a square in the middle of this, nothing that says you have to do that. And then I'm going to go probably come over here and grab like a background element here that's like, let's see this one. Download and styled. But yeah, you definitely create some sense of design language around these. And it like usually it'd be set up either in Figma, or like in some cases it might even be set up in like Canva, depending on the level of technical ability that these, whoever is actually building these. A lot of times it's like a marketing person or something if you don't have a designer.
Yeah, I make my infographics in Canva and my thumbnails in Photoshop.
Infographics in Canva, thumbnails in Photoshop. Okay.
That's what
I mean, I'm a hardcore designer, and I appreciate Canva. I've thought about building an entire. I wouldn't be the one actually doing the work, but I've thought about building an entire agency for Canva. I don't offer Canva design through DesignJoy, but I know there's a lot of companies that like operate off of Canva. Like their teams definitely rely on it for all their assets, and I have to just turn those people away,
Mm.
And then I love texture, so I'd come in here and add a nice little like texture to this.
So from your point of view, I should create kind of like a custom rectangular, more simple image for each article.
Yes, like a fixed aspect ratio. So maintain like the same aspect ratio as before, as all of them do, so that you don't have to worry about things being cropped out or whatever. But and then you could see like, put these in here quick. Not necessarily worried for the sake of this demo of getting the spacing right, but or consistent rather. Yeah, this could be like your purple. Now again, like, would I do all of them this same style? No. Like I wouldn't do that. I'm just doing this for the demo. You'd have like, if for example, I have people that hire DesignJoy all the time, and part of their request is like, hey, we need blog graphics, like, but we need templates. We don't want you to do the individual graphics. We want you to create like a framework and like templates, and so I'll create like 10 or 15 different layouts for them, some with text on them, some without, some using images, some using icons, that sort of thing. So this would be just like one of many templates for you to leverage. You can start to see it, and it does make it a lot more interesting. And then up here, this in here as well.
It's really coming together now.
That's the thing about design is like one moment it's like, okay, there's nothing really here, and then it starts to kind of take shape. Less than that. You can see I added like almost like a texture in there.
Yep.
And then these would, yeah. And then we do your, how long has it been right now?
Probably about 20 minutes, right about that 20-minute mark we're hitting. And we can see where you're like probably like 60, 70% of the way there. And then that's how you get to complete within an hour.
Yeah. And again, like if I was doing a page, well, it looks way more like a blog. Yours is a very kind of unique situation to design, like to jump. Usually like the blog follows everything else that I've already done and set up, like with the home page and services page or whatever it is. And the blog kind of comes and follows suit. Your homepage is basically like it's a content, it's basically like a blog of sorts. So it's an interesting place to just like jump into something. And again, like if you come back and you're like, I want this to be more interesting or something. Okay, what do I do? What do I do next? I need a logo up here. This is bothering me. I'll just take this for the sake of. Not a huge fan of Figma in a lot of ways.
I wanted to ask you about that. You have some hot takes on Figma. As soon as we finish this, you got to tell us more. But what is Figma not doing right?
Figma, and again, like they have every right to do whatever the heck they want to do, right? It's like it's their company. They do a lot of things right. The problem with Figma is they captured the design market. Like they own it. They've owned it for years. They know it. There's no real players. Now there's about to be for sure, but there's no real like solid players in the space. So they're relatively like the threats are minimal for them. So they just clearly took a turn to try to capture an entirely different segment altogether of developers, which makes sense because to bring design and development closer together makes a lot of sense logically. And they sort of morphed Figma into a tool that developers are using now more than ever, like more than Photoshop and stuff. And they've started just really tailoring the content towards them. And then the feature updates and everything is very developer focused, I guess, just to put it simply. And there's not much progress being made or love being shown to actual like just visual designers, UI designers, right? So it's just a general like grievance I have with where their focus has been for the last 3 or 4 years. Like every config that they have, it's like everyone's like, oh, there's gonna be big updates for like this and this and this, and it's just all just like, hey, we got dev mode or we did this and we got tokens or whatever, and it's just like nothing that I use. Right? Figma for me is relatively the same it has been for the last 3 or 4 years, which should not be the case in 2025. Like we should be making like giant strides towards towards really revolutionizing design tools, but their focus has just been entirely on developers, and it's a revenue play for them. So I could go on, but I'm definitely not alone in it. It's a lot of people kind of.
That's the major criticism I've seen, of course, is like, yeah, they're just not giving much, it seems like, product team love to designers. It's going a lot to developers and other user groups.
Yeah, and there's a stat that 2/3 of Figma users aren't even designers. So it's like it's either marketing folks or it's developers. So if you're looking at it just from a revenue standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, right? But then me and every other designer on X have demoed Paper, which is a new design tool coming out. Have you seen it at all?
No.
Yeah. So it's a lot like Figma, but they have a ton of creative tools inside. They have shaders, which I didn't even know shaders were before I joined the demo call. But they're doing everything Figma's not doing. So they better watch out for sure, because I think designers would jump ship real quick, just like we did with Photoshop, just like we did with Sketch.
Yeah, it happens so fast.
Yeah, you got to start showing some love, because it's been talked about for years now, and it's interesting because Dylan Field, like the founder of Figma, CEO of Figma, always jumps into the comments of like whether it's my post or Dan Petty's post or whatever, and acts all like he's listening, which is nice, but it's like it's the same. We've been saying the same things for years now, so like it kind of just falls on deaf ears anymore when he gets involved.
Wow. So that is our 25-minute homepage. I think the takeaways for me, like the big thing that I think most people aren't doing is they aren't, like you said, one-shotting it, right? They don't have the conviction to make these choices. Like they're adding those gradients and they're taking them out. They're adding those textures and they're taking them out. They're creating this layout, then they're saying, oh, what if I try this other layout? What if I present all these different layouts? And so it really comes down in a sense to having a lot of conviction about your design taste.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. It's a lot of conviction, but it's also like just a lot of experience doing these things too. Like I used to just, I don't so much anymore, but I used to live and breathe. Like I used to eat design inspiration up like I eat food. You know, it's like I just constantly, I was more obsessed with like consuming good design than I was actually even creating good design. And so what it did was it just creates this like your ability just unconsciously almost just reach into your brain and just pick out some sort of direction, right? And again, like this direction may not even be the right direction, right? Like I didn't sit here and talk with you about like what you wanted or what style you wanted or whatever. Like we could take another 20 minutes and spin up something like entirely different than this. But the point is like the way that I handle client work is I would rather spend 30 minutes on something visual, send it to you, and maybe we're 90% there and we don't need to have all these conversations and meetings and whiteboard sessions and mood boards and stuff like that if maybe what I just did in 20 minutes is like what you want. And if it isn't what you want, it's no big deal because we can go back to the drawing board and give me another 20 minutes and I'll spin up something else. And then maybe you like that direction, but it's not quite like as refined. Okay, I can take this, duplicate it over here, and then just start really spicing it up, you know, doing different things like that. So this would be like an example of maybe like a first draft that I would send to someone that's like, you could call it a draft, but it's really, I mean, it's pretty pixel perfect like already. So you could actually go into production with it, but it's certainly not like the be all end all, right? Like this is a 25-minute render of something, you know? And this is without even me like going through. What I typically do is I have a list of like inspo that I've collected over the time. So I'll usually be referencing that. That'll help me kind of craft these layouts and patterns. So that I did that.
I really hope you guys enjoyed that episode. It would mean a ton to me and the team if you could please subscribe on YouTube, follow on Apple and Spotify podcasts, and leave a rating and review. Those ratings and reviews really help grow the show and help other people discover the show. And they help fund the production so that we can do bigger and better productions. Can't wait to share the next episode with you. Until then, see you later.